By accidentally choosing the wrong floor in the elevator, I decided to walk up the remaining 2 floors to the apartment I shared with my fiancé. But when I accidentally overheard my fiancé talking with our neighbor, I froze in horror. I was sure I was one of those rare women lucky enough to have found true love. My Santiago, even his name sounded to me like the sweetest melody. 5 years together, 2 years engaged, and in just a month, our wedding was to take place, the one I had dreamed of since childhood, a grand white dress, a veil embroidered with crystals, and a ring symbolizing our eternal love. My name is Valentina, I'm 32, and I work as an interior designer in a small but prestigious firm. Santiago is 5 years older, a businessman who manages a chain of electronic stores he built from scratch after graduating from university. Many thought we were the perfect couple, attractive, successful, in love. We never argued over trifles, always found compromises, and seemed to understand each other without words. Our apartment was in a new residential complex on the 17th floor, 3 rooms, a spacious kitchen, large windows overlooking the city. I had designed the interior myself, pouring a piece of my soul into every detail. I loved how much light and space there was. Santiago had given me full freedom in decorating our home, only occasionally suggesting small adjustments. The apartment had become our little paradise, the place where we planned to spend many happy years together, perhaps even raise children. We had moved in 6 months earlier. Before that, I lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city, inherited from my grandmother, and Santiago rented a place near his office. When we decided to get married, we realized we wanted to start our life together in a new home that would be entirely ours. We chose it together, carefully inspecting every option until we found the one that perfectly matched our expectations. We hardly knew our neighbors. We greeted them politely, sometimes exchanged a few words about the weather or building news, nothing more. Life in a big city has its rules. Everyone's busy, always rushing somewhere, and close relationships with neighbors are rare. The only exception was the family with a teenage son who lived directly below us. Their boy sometimes looked after our cat, Morgana, when we went away for the weekend or on vacation. Santiago and I rarely had matching schedules. I often worked from home, meeting clients in the morning and returning afterward to work on design projects in peace. Santiago spent long hours at the office, often coming home after 9 in the evening, tired, but content. Occasionally, he traveled to other cities for business trips related to new store openings. On those days, I missed him terribly, counting the hours until he returned. That day, the day that changed my life forever, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. A typical April morning. I woke to the sound of the alarm and turned to find Santiago already gone. He always got up before me. In the kitchen, a cup of hot coffee and a note awaited me. "Good morning, my love. Important meeting today. I'll be home late. Don't miss me too much. Kisses, your S." I smiled, picturing him hurriedly scribbling those words while tying his tie and checking emails on his phone. The day went by as usual, a meeting with new clients, a married couple wanting to renovate their living room for their anniversary, followed by lunch with my friend Carolina at a small cafe near my office. Carolina worked in a bridal salon and had picked out a few dress options for me. We spent hours discussing styles, fabrics, and accessories. After lunch, I returned to the office, finished a project for a client in Mexico City, and left around 6 in the evening. Usually, I took the bus home, but since it was drizzling that day, I decided to grab a taxi. I didn't feel like getting wet. In the car, I scrolled through my messages, a few emails from clients, reminders about a Monday meeting, and a congratulatory note from a distant relative who had just learned about our upcoming wedding. Nothing unusual, nothing that could have warned me of what was about to happen. When I arrived home, I paid the driver and hurried inside. The security guard at the entrance nodded, noting my arrival in his logbook as usual. The building's excellent security system had been one of the reasons we'd chosen it. In the lobby, I pressed the elevator button. While waiting, I checked the mailbox, a few ads and the utility bill. The elevator arrived. I stepped in and pressed what I thought was our floors button, lost in thoughts about dinner. Should I cook something if Santiago was coming home late, or just reheat the leftover stew from yesterday? I didn't realize I had pressed the button for the 15th floor instead of the 17th. When the doors opened, I stepped out, still deep in thought. I walked a few steps before noticing that the apartment numbers began with 5 instead of 7. Smiling at my distraction, I decided not to wait for the elevator again but to walk up the remaining 2 floors. A bit of exercise never hurts, especially since I'd been eating too many sweets lately, trying to cope with pre-wedding stress. Opening the door to the stairwell, I began to climb. There were 2 short flights between floors, so it wasn't difficult. Reaching the 16th floor, I stopped to catch my breath. That's when I heard voices coming from above, a man's and a woman's. At first, I didn't pay attention. People talked on the stairs all the time. But then I heard the name Santiago. I froze. The voice was familiar, too familiar. It was my fiancé's voice. Curiosity, or perhaps instinct, got the better of me. I quietly climbed a few more steps, careful not to make a sound. From there, I could see part of the 17th floor landing. Santiago stood with his back to me. Facing him was our neighbor, Esperanza. I rarely spoke with her, though I knew she lived across the hall, alone, and worked for a pharmaceutical company. A tall, striking blonde with model-like features, always impeccably dressed and perfectly made up. Even now, in a casual setting, she looked as if she'd just stepped out of a glossy magazine. Santiago, this can't go on forever, Esperanza said, her voice edged with irritation. We have to settle this once and for all. I know, my fiancé replied, and a chill ran down my spine. I had never heard him speak like that, low, intimate, with a tenderness I thought he reserved only for me. But now isn't the right time. We have to wait a little longer. How long? She demanded. A month? A year? 10? I'm tired of waiting, Santiago. I'm tired of hiding, of sharing you with her. It's unbearable, especially when I see her every day, when I have to smile and pretend nothing's going on between us. The ground seemed to vanish beneath my feet. My temples throbbed, my throat went dry, my heart stopped for a moment, then pounded wildly. Was I hearing this right? Santiago and Esperanza? I'll handle it, Santiago said soothingly. I promise. Right after the wedding. I have a plan. After the wedding? What plan? What was he talking about? 1,000 questions swirled in my mind, but I couldn't make a sound, terrified they would hear me. After the wedding? Esperanza exclaimed. Are you insane? You're going to marry her knowing you love me? A lump rose in my throat, and I barely stifled a sob. My Santiago, my beloved, my future husband, was having an affair with our neighbor, and from the sound of it, it had been going on for a while. How could I not have seen it? How could I have been so blind? Esperanza, listen, Santiago said, taking her hands, a gesture that stabbed through my heart. I'll explain everything. No, not here. Let's go to your place. I'll tell you the whole plan. Esperanza nodded, and they disappeared behind her door. I remained standing on the stairs, unable to move. My legs trembled, my ears rang, and dark spots danced before my eyes. I felt I was about to faint. I don't know how long I stood there trying to process what I'd heard. A minute? An hour? Time lost all meaning. At last, mustering what little strength I had left, I went up to our floor. I needed to get home, to be alone, to think, to decide what to do next. With trembling hands, I took out my keys and opened the door to our apartment. Once inside, I leaned my back against the door and slid down to the floor. Only then did the tears come in a torrent, and I broke down, unable to hold them back. How could he? How could he betray me, betray our love, our plans, our future? And with whom? With the neighbor who lives just on the other side of our wall. They must have been laughing at me all this time. I could just imagine the meaningful looks they exchanged when we ran into each other in the elevator or at the entrance. Esperanza smiling at me, knowing she was sleeping with my fiancé. I felt physically ill. I made it to the bathroom just in time. I threw up. I washed my face in cold water for a long time, trying to pull my thoughts together. In the mirror, a pale woman with eyes swollen from crying and tangled hair stared back at me. It was me, and yet not me. The old Valentina, happy and self-assured, was gone. In her place stood a woman with a broken heart and shattered hopes. What should I do? Leave? Stay and make a scene? Pretend I knew nothing and keep preparing for the wedding as if nothing had happened? The last option seemed absurd, but I was so shocked that even that crossed my mind. I left the bathroom and, on autopilot, went to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water, sat at the table, and stared into space. Our kitchen, which I had lovingly done in light tones with bright accents, colorful spice jars, and ceramic dishes, now felt foreign and cold. My gaze fell on a framed photo on the shelf, Santiago and me in the mountains, happy, smiling. It was taken on our first trip together, when we had just started dating. I remember that day in every detail, the clear sky, the fresh mountain air, the feeling of flying when Santiago spun me in his arms. Had he been lying even then? Was all our happiness an illusion? My phone vibrated in my bag, jolting me from my heavy thoughts. I pulled it out and saw a message from Santiago. I'll be late. Don't wait for dinner. Love you. A bitter smile twisted my lips. Love me, sure. Enough to cheat with the neighbor. I tossed the phone onto the couch and covered my face with my hands. What should I do? What on earth should I do? Tell him I knew everything? Demand an explanation? Pack my things and leave without a word? Every option seemed both right and wrong at the same time. I lifted my head and looked at the clock. Almost 8 in the evening. Santiago had said he'd be late, which meant I had time to think, to collect myself. I decided to take a shower. Maybe hot water would help me calm down and make a decision. Under the stream, I tried to analyze the situation more rationally. Maybe I had misunderstood their conversation. Maybe there was nothing between them and they were talking about something else. But then how to explain the words about love, about her being tired of sharing him with me? No, it was clear. My fiancé was cheating on me with our neighbor. After the shower, I wrapped myself in a robe and went back to the kitchen. I didn't feel like eating, but I knew I should put something in my stomach. I opened the fridge and stared at the shelves loaded with food, but nothing appealed. In the end, I just made myself a cheese toast and poured another glass of water. My thoughts kept spinning like a carousel. I remembered little things I'd ignored before, Santiago coming home later than usual, strange calls after which he would step out onto the balcony so I couldn't hear, his nervousness in recent weeks, which I had chalked up to work stress, and the looming wedding. What if this had been going on since the day we moved here? What if he chose this building on purpose because Esperanza lived here? No, that's absurd. We chose the apartment together, looked over dozens of options. It had to be a coincidence. Or was it? My head was spinning. I felt I would go crazy if I kept thinking like this. I needed to talk to someone, let out the emotions, get some advice. I reached for my phone to call Carolina, but stopped. What would I say? Hi, I think my fiancé is cheating with the neighbor, and I accidentally overheard their conversation. It sounded like the plot of a cheap melodrama. Besides, Carolina had always admired my relationship with Santiago, thought we were the perfect couple. I didn't want to ruin that image in her eyes, at least not until I had sorted things out myself. I couldn't call my parents either. My mother adored Santiago, considered him the ideal son-in-law. She was so happy about our engagement, so enthusiastic helping with the wedding plans. No, I couldn't tell her my suspicions without solid proof. It would break her heart. That left only my older sister, Florencia. We'd never been especially close. 10 years difference will do that, and our personalities were too different. But Florencia was known for her practical mind and sound advice. Plus, she lived in another city and didn't know Santiago personally, which made her the ideal confidant in this situation. I dialed her number, praying she would pick up. After the third ring, her voice sounded in my ear. Valentina, did something happen? You never call at this hour. Florencia, my voice wavered, I need to talk to you. It's important. I'm listening, she said, a hint of worry in her tone. What happened? And I told her everything, how I ended up on the wrong floor by accident, how I overheard Santiago and Esperanza, how my world collapsed in an instant. I spoke in a jumble, jumping from one thought to another, sometimes stopping to catch my breath or hold back tears. Florencia listened in silence, without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a while, then asked, "Are you sure you understood everything correctly? Maybe there is something between them, but not what you think." What else could I think? I burst out. I'm tired of sharing you with her. You're going to marry her knowing you love me. How else can that be understood? I don't know, Florencia sighed. It's just that Santiago always seemed so devoted to you. All these years together, not a hint of infidelity. And then this. It's a shock to me too, I admitted. I never thought he was capable of it. I thought our relationship was perfect. And what are you going to do? I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to pack my things and leave right now. Another part wants answers. I'm confused, Flora, that's why I called you. I think, my sister said slowly, you should talk to him. Directly. Tell him what you heard, and demand an explanation. Maybe there is some explanation. What explanation can there be for betrayal? I asked bitterly. I'm not saying it will be satisfactory or that you should forgive him. I'm saying that before you make a decision that will affect your whole life, you need to know the whole truth. I knew she was right. As painful as it was, I had to talk to Santiago, to hear his side. Maybe it wasn't what it seemed. Maybe there was some explanation I couldn't imagine right now. Unlikely, but 5 years of happiness couldn't be a complete lie, could they? Thank you, Flora, I said. You're right. I'll talk to him when he gets back. I just don't know how to survive the wait. Maybe you should come to me? Spend a few days away from it all, calm down, think? No, I shook my head, though she couldn't see it. I have to resolve this here and now. If I leave, I might never find the courage to come back and talk to him. As you wish, she said, concern in her voice. But call me anytime if you need to. And keep me posted, okay? Of course. Thank you, Flora. After we hung up, I felt a little better. At least I had a plan now. Wait for Santiago, talk to him, demand explanations, and decide what to do based on his answers. But time dragged unbearably. It was only 9 o'clock, and Santiago might not come home until 11, even midnight. I couldn't just sit and wait. The wildest ideas flashed through my mind. Go to Esperanza and make a scene, pack Santiago's things and put them outside the door, call him and blurt everything out over the phone. No, I had to stay calm, at least on the surface. I decided to keep myself busy to distract my mind. I opened my laptop, intending to work on a project for a Mexican client, but I couldn't focus. The letters blurred before my eyes, and my thoughts kept circling back to the conversation I'd overheard. I closed the laptop and walked through the apartment. Every room, every object reminded me of Santiago, of our life together. There was his favorite armchair where he often sat with a book. There was the shelf with his collection of vinyl records. There was our bedroom, where we had spent so many happy moments. The bedroom. The thought of it brought a fresh wave of pain. Had he been there with Esperanza, in our bed, while I was at work or away on business? The thought made me nauseous again. I pushed those images away and went back to the kitchen. I needed to keep my hands busy. I decided to make tea. While the water was boiling, I mechanically sorted through the tea bags, trying to choose which one. I settled on chamomile in the end. They say it calms the nerves. With a cup of tea, I settled on the couch in the living room. Some movie was playing on TV, but I wasn't following the plot. I just stared at the screen without seeing or hearing what was happening there. All my thoughts were about Santiago, about our shattered happiness, about the conversation ahead. What if he denied everything? What if he convinced me I'd misunderstood? Would I believe him? Did I want to? 5 years together is no joke. We'd been through so much, supported each other in hard times, shared joy and grief. Did none of that mean anything? But on the other hand, how could I trust a man who had betrayed me, who looked me in the eye and spoke of love, planned our wedding and our future, while all that time he was with someone else? My head was splitting from all these thoughts. I took 2 painkillers and tried to calm down. It will be resolved today, I told myself. One way or another, today I'll learn the truth. At 10:30 I heard a key turn in the lock. My heart leapt and began to pound wildly. Santiago was back. The moment of truth had come. I sat up straight on the couch, trying to look composed, though inside I was shaking with tension. Santiago walked into the living room with his usual easy smile. He looked tired but pleased. In his hand he held a bouquet of my favorite lilies. "Hi, my love," he said, leaning down to kiss me. I pulled away, unable to bear his touch. His eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Did something happen?" "We need to talk," I said. My voice sounded strange, as if it belonged to someone else. "Of course," he said, sitting down beside me and placing the bouquet on the coffee table. "I'm listening." I took a deep breath, gathering my strength. "Today I came home earlier than usual." "Oh," he nodded, showing no sign of concern. "I didn't know. I was out all day. The negotiations dragged on." "I know you weren't home," I said, looking straight into his eyes. "But I saw you." His face changed. A fleeting shadow of worry crossed it, but he quickly regained his composure. "You saw me? Where?" "On the landing. You were talking to Esperanza." Now he couldn't hide his agitation. His eyes widened, his lips pressed into a thin line. "Valentina, I can explain." "Really?" I folded my arms across my chest. "Then explain why our neighbor says she's tired of sharing you with me. Why does she ask if you're going to marry me knowing you love her? Explain that to me, Santiago." He paled and lowered his head. For several long seconds, the room was silent. Then he looked up at me, and in his eyes I saw remorse, regret, fear. "It's not what you think," he began. "And what am I supposed to think?" I cut him off. "That it's a platonic friendship? That she's your business partner? That you were discussing the weather?" "No, of course not," he shook his head. "I won't lie to you. There is something between Esperanza and me." Even though I already knew it, hearing the confession from his lips was unbearable, like someone driving a knife into my heart and slowly twisting it. I turned away, not wanting him to see my tears. "How long?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay even. 6 months, he said quietly. 6 months. The entire time we'd lived in this apartment. The entire time I'd been planning our wedding, choosing dresses, making the guest list, dreaming of our future, he'd been with her. And all this time you lied to me, I said, not a question, a statement. You looked me in the eyes and lied. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, his voice full of remorse. I got confused, Valentina. I didn't know what the right thing to do was. The right thing? I turned to him, no longer hiding my tears. The right thing would have been not to cheat on me. The right thing would have been to tell me the truth as soon as you realized you had feelings for another woman. The right thing would have been not to plan a wedding knowing you didn't love me. I love you, Valentina, he said, reaching for my hand, but I pulled it away. I really do love you. It's just that with Esperanza it's different. It's like a spell. I can't explain it. Don't, I said, standing up. I don't need your explanations. I need the truth. Do you love her? He was silent, eyes downcast. That silence spoke louder than any words. I see, I said, feeling something inside me finally break. Then we have nothing more to talk about. Valentina, please, he stood too. Let's talk this through. I know I'm at fault, but maybe we can fix this. Fix it? I gave a bitter little laugh. What is there to fix, Santiago? You betrayed me, our love, our trust. You planned to marry me knowing you loved another woman. How can that be fixed? I don't know, he admitted, but I don't want to lose you. You already lost me, I said firmly, the moment you chose to be with her. I headed to the bedroom to pack the essentials. I couldn't stay another minute. Every object in this apartment reminded me of a happiness that had turned out to be an illusion. Santiago followed me. Where are you going? I'm leaving, I said, taking a bag from the closet. I can't stay here. Valentina, it's the middle of the night. Where will you go? None of your business, I said, starting to throw things into the bag. I moved mechanically, not thinking about what I took. I just wanted to get as far away from this place, from him, as quickly as possible. Please don't go, there was desperation in his voice. Let's talk in the morning. You're upset, it's understandable. Don't make decisions in this state. My decision is already made, I said, zipping the bag and turning to him. It's over between us, Santiago. There will be no wedding. Our relationship is finished. You can't just cross out 5 years like that, he protested. We've been through so much together. Doesn't it mean anything to you? It meant a lot to me, I said, grabbing the bag and heading for the door. What about you? If those 5 years had meant anything to you, you wouldn't have betrayed me. He blocked my way. I won't let you walk out like this in the middle of the night. It's dangerous. Stay. I'll sleep in the living room. No, I shook my head. I can't stay here. I can't breathe the same air as you. Then at least tell me where you're going. I need to know you're safe. I'm going to Carolina's, I lied. In truth, I didn't know where I would go, maybe to my friends, maybe to a hotel. The important thing was to leave, to be alone and think. All right, he stepped aside reluctantly, but promise you'll call me when you get there, just so I know you're safe. Don't worry about me, I said coldly. Go to your Esperanza, you don't have to hide anymore. With that, I left the apartment and slammed the door behind me. Only in the hallway did I realize I was shaking all over. I leaned against the wall, trying to pull myself together. Where now? What to do? My gaze fell on the door across the hall. That's where she lived, Esperanza, the woman who had wrecked my life. Santiago would surely call her now, tell her about our conversation. Maybe he'd go to her the moment I left. The thought made the nausea rise again. I headed for the elevator with determination. I had to get out of there as quickly as possible. Outside, I drew a deep breath of the cool night air. The rain had stopped, but the air was still damp. I looked around. What now? Where to spend the night? My first thought was to go to Carolina's, but I didn't want to explain anything to anyone about what had happened. Not now, when the wound was so fresh. A hotel? Yes, that was the most reasonable option. I'd spend the night there and in the morning decide what to do next. I ordered a taxi through the app on my phone and entered the address of the nearest hotel I knew. While I waited, I stood by the entrance, praying Santiago wouldn't come after me. I didn't think I could handle another conversation with him. The taxi arrived 10 minutes later. I got into the back seat, gave the address, and leaned against the backrest, feeling utterly exhausted. Only now, as the adrenaline began to ebb, did I realize how emotionally and physically drained I was. The driver tried to make small talk, but quickly understood I wasn't in the mood and turned on the radio. Soft music filled the car, and I closed my eyes, trying not to think about what had happened. But the images kept spinning in my head, Santiago and Esperanza on the landing, his confession, my leaving. Everything felt unreal, as if I were watching a film about someone else's life rather than living my own drama. When we reached the hotel, I paid the driver and got out. It was a small but decent place in the city center. I'd been there before when clients from other cities came to visit, and I knew it was clean and quiet. At reception, a young woman with a friendly smile greeted me. "Good evening. How can I help you?" "I need a room," I said. "For one night?" "Yes." "Single or double?" "Single." She took my passport, completed the paperwork, and handed me a key card. "Room 215, second floor. Breakfast is included, from 7 to 10 a.m. Anything else you need?" "No, thank you." I took the key and headed for the elevator. The room was standard: a bed, a wardrobe, a desk, a TV, a small bathroom. Nothing special, but clean and cozy. I dropped my bag on the floor, took off my coat, and sat on the edge of the bed. Only then, alone at last, did I allow myself to fully grasp what was happening. My fiancé, the man I loved with all my heart, the one I planned to spend my life with, had betrayed me. He had been cheating on me with the neighbor, and it had been going on for 6 months. 6 months of lies, pretense, and a double life. The tears came again in a rush. I sobbed without restraint, letting the pain, disappointment, and anger pour out. My whole life, every plan, dream, and hope, collapsed in a single moment. And the worst part was that I hadn't seen any signs, hadn't suspected a thing, blissfully, foolishly happy until reality hit me over the head. I don't know how long I stayed like that. When the tears finally ran dry, I felt empty. My head was hollow, my body heavy and foreign. I undressed mechanically, took a shower, put on the t-shirt I'd brought from home, and lay down on the bed. Sleep wouldn't come. I lay staring at the ceiling, thinking about how my life had changed in a single day. In the morning I had been a happy bride planning her wedding. Now I was lying alone in a hotel room, with a broken heart and shattered hopes. My phone, lying on the nightstand, vibrated. A message from Santiago. "Valentina, please answer. I'm worried. Are you at Carolina's? Are you okay? We need to talk. I'll explain everything. Please give me a chance." I turned off the phone, not wanting to read his messages or answer his calls. Not now. Maybe never. In the morning, a knock at the door woke me. I struggled to open my eyes, disoriented. Then the memories surged back, and I felt my heart clench with pain again. "Housekeeping," a voice came from the hallway. "Sorry to bother you." "It's okay," I answered hoarsely. "I'll be checking out soon." I glanced at the clock. It was almost 11. Checkout was by noon. I hauled myself out of bed and went to the bathroom. The face in the mirror frightened me, eyes swollen from crying, pale skin, tangled hair. I looked 10 years older. After rinsing my face with cold water and doing my best to make myself presentable, I got dressed and packed my things. What now? Where to go? I couldn't return to the apartment where Santiago and Esperanza might be at that very moment. I didn't want to go to my parents either. I wasn't ready to explain what had happened. To Carolina's? Maybe, but I should call her first. I turned my phone back on. 10 missed calls from Santiago, 5 messages. I didn't read them, just deleted them. I dialed Carolina's number. "Valentina." Her voice sounded worried. "What happened?" "Santiago called me, asking if you were here. He said you'd had a fight and you left." "Can I come to your place?" I asked, ignoring her questions. "I need somewhere to stay for a few days." "Of course," she said without hesitation. "Where are you now? I can come pick you up." I gave her the hotel's address. "I'll wait for you out front." "Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. After settling the bill, I stepped outside to wait for Carolina. The day was sunny but cool. Typical April weather, unpredictable and changeable, like my life right now. Carolina pulled up exactly 20 minutes later. Seeing me, she jumped out of the car and rushed to hug me. "Valentina, what happened? You look terrible." "I'll tell you on the way," I said, climbing into the passenger seat, feeling the tears rise again. I couldn't keep it together any longer. On the drive to her place, I told her everything, what I'd overheard, Santiago's confession, my leaving. Carolina listened, throwing me anxious glances now and then. "I can't believe it," she said when I finished. "Santiago always seemed so straight, so devoted. I never would have thought him capable of cheating." "Me neither," I said bitterly. "That's why it hurts so much. I trusted him completely. And what are you going to do now?" "I don't know," I shook my head. "Right now I just want to be somewhere Santiago can't find me. Think things through, decide how to go on." "You can stay with me as long as you need," Carolina assured me. "My apartment is at your disposal." Thank you. I managed a weak smile. You're a true friend. Carolina's apartment was small but cozy, a studio with a separate kitchen and a balcony. Besides working at the bridal salon, she also organized events, so she was financially independent. Make yourself at home, she said, showing me the pull-out couch in the living room. I'll make tea, and we'll think about what to do next. I sat down on the couch, feeling utterly shattered. The past 24 hours felt unreal, as if they'd happened to someone else. Maybe it was just a nightmare. Maybe I'd wake up in my own bed next to Santiago and everything would be just as before. But no, this was reality. Harsh, merciless reality. My fiancé loved another woman. Our wedding, planned for next month, would never take place. Our future, which we had so carefully mapped out, had dissolved like smoke. Carolina returned with 2 cups of tea and sat beside me. Santiago keeps calling me, she said. He's asking if you're here. What should I tell him? Nothing. I shook my head. I'm not ready to talk to him. Not now. Okay, she nodded. But sooner or later you'll have to, at least to decide what to do about the apartment and your things. I knew she was right. There were still unpleasant conversations ahead with Santiago about the apartment, the division of property, canceling the wedding. But I couldn't think about any of that now. The wound was too fresh, the pain too sharp. Let's talk about something else, I asked. Anything, just not Santiago. Understanding, Carolina began telling me about her work, new clients, vacation plans. I half listened, grateful for her attempt to distract me, but my thoughts kept circling back to Santiago's betrayal. How could he? 5 years together, 2 years engaged. And all that time he'd been faithful to me, I was sure of it. What had happened 6 months ago? What had changed? Why did he suddenly decide he could betray me, deceive me, destroy our love? And Esperanza, what kind of person was she? Did she know she was seeing an engaged man? Of course she knew. We lived in the same building, met in the elevator, exchanged greetings. She saw me every day, smiled at me, knowing she was sleeping with my fiancé. What cynicism, what cruelty. Valentina, Carolina's voice pulled me from my heavy thoughts. Are you listening to me? Sorry, I gave her an apologetic smile. I got a little distracted. I understand, she said, squeezing my hand. You need time. And you know what? The most important thing right now is to take care of yourself. Sleep, eat, maybe see a therapist. A therapist? I looked at her in surprise. Yes, Carolina nodded. You've been through serious trauma, the betrayal of someone you love. That's not something you easily handle on your own. Professional help can be very useful. I thought about it. I'd never gone to a therapist before. I'd always believed I could solve my problems myself. But now I felt completely lost, shattered, unable to make decisions. Maybe Carolina was right. Maybe I really did need help. I'll think about it, I said. But first I have to deal with more pressing issues. My things are still at the apartment. Most of my clothes, documents, work materials. I can't just leave them. We can go there together, Carolina offered. If you want, I'll go with you, or I can pick up your things myself if you give me a list and the keys. Thank you. I was touched by her care. But I have to do it myself. Sooner or later I'll have to face Santiago. Better to do it now, while everything is still fresh, than to put off the inevitable. As you wish, Carolina shrugged. But I'm going with you anyway. I'll wait in the car if you want to talk to him alone. I'll be nearby in case you need support. I nodded gratefully. With friends like Carolina, I would get through this. I would withstand it, endure it, find the strength to move on. Maybe we should eat first? Carolina suggested. You look like you haven't eaten in days. I realized I really was hungry. The last time I'd eaten was yesterday, and only a cheese toast. Yes, that's a good idea. Carolina made a simple but hearty lunch, an omelet with cheese and vegetables, toast, a fresh salad. I ate everything, surprised by my own appetite. The food lifted my spirits a little, at least physically I felt better. After lunch, I decided it was time to act. I needed to go to the apartment, pick up the essentials, maybe talk to Santiago. I wasn't sure he'd be there, most likely he was at work or with Esperanza. But even if he was home, I had to show that I wasn't broken, that I could speak to him calmly and rationally. Are you sure you're ready? Carolina asked when we got into her car. We can do this tomorrow or the day after if you want more time to think. No, I shook my head. Better to do it now. I know what I want. I need my things, and I have to tell Santiago it's over between us. Finally and irrevocably. Okay, Carolina started the car. Then let's go. On the way to my home, no, not mine anymore, now it was Santiago's and, possibly, Esperanza's, I thought about what I would say if I ran into him. Would I yell, cry, beg him to explain why he did it? Or would I keep my dignity, be cool and businesslike, not showing how deeply he'd hurt me? I decided on the latter. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me suffer. I wouldn't let him think his betrayal had destroyed me. I was stronger than he thought, stronger than I thought myself. When we pulled up to the building, I asked Carolina to wait for me in the car. I'll manage on my own. If something goes wrong, I'll call. Be careful, she squeezed my hand. And remember, you're not alone. I'm here, and I'm on your side. I gave her a grateful smile and got out. As I entered the building, my heart began to beat faster. The security guard nodded at me as usual, as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. In the elevator, I stared at the buttons for a long time before pressing 17. At this time yesterday, I had ridden home without suspecting my life was about to flip upside down. Amazing how much can change in a single day. Stepping out of the elevator, I froze, looking at the door to our apartment. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst from my chest. You've got this, I told myself. You're strong. You can do this. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out the key and opened the door. The apartment was quiet. Santiago? I called as I stepped into the entryway. No answer. I exhaled with relief and went into the living room. Everything looked the same as yesterday. The bouquet of lilies Santiago had brought stood in a vase on the coffee table. Seeing the flowers, my throat tightened again. How could he bring me flowers knowing he was betraying me? Pushing away the bitter thoughts, I headed to the bedroom. I needed to pack the essentials, clothes, documents, work materials. The rest I could collect later, once I decided where I'd live permanently. I opened the wardrobe and began putting things into a large bag. I worked mechanically, without thinking, just taking what I might need in the coming days: dresses, blouses, jeans, underwear, shoes, cosmetics, and personal care items from the bathroom, my laptop, charger, documents from the safe. My gaze fell on a framed photo on the nightstand, Santiago and me with the Eiffel Tower behind us. The trip to Paris for my 30th birthday. He proposed to me then in a little restaurant in Montmartre. I'd been so happy, so sure it was forever. I picked up the photo and looked at it for a long time, then deliberately set it back down. That was the past, something that would never come again. I had to let those memories go, no matter how much it hurt. When I finished packing, I looked around. What else? It seemed I'd gathered everything essential. The rest I could pick up later, or just leave. They were only things. Not worth reliving this pain again and again. I was about to leave when I heard the door open. My heart stopped. Santiago was back. Valentina, his voice sounded surprised and pleased. You came back. I stepped into the hallway with the bag in my hand. I came for my things. His face darkened. Just for that? What else? Did you expect me to come back as if nothing had happened, forgive you, and keep planning the wedding? I hoped we could talk. He took a step toward me. That I could explain everything. There's nothing to explain. I stepped back, widening the space between us. You cheated on me with our neighbor for 6 months and planned to marry me knowing you loved someone else. What is there to explain? It's more complicated than you think, he began. No, Santiago, I shook my head. It's very simple. You betrayed me, you betrayed our love. And now it's over between us. Please, Valentina, hear me out. There was desperation in his voice. Yes, I'm guilty. I acted terribly. But I love you. I always have. And Esperanza? Do you love her too? He was silent, eyes downcast. That silence said more than any words. I thought so, I nodded. Santiago, I'm taking my things and leaving. For good. Live here with Esperanza or without her, I don't care. The apartment is in your name, so there won't be any issues. And the wedding? He asked quietly. The guests, the restaurant, everything is already paid for. I couldn't believe my ears. Are you serious? You think that after everything that's happened I still want to marry you? No, of course not, he shook his head. It's just, it'll be a scandal. What will we tell the guests? Our parents? The truth, I said firmly. That there's no wedding because the groom turned out to be a liar and a traitor. Or make up another reason if you prefer. I don't care. That's your problem, not mine. Valentina, please, he took another step toward me. Let's at least talk. I know I'm to blame, I know I hurt you. But maybe we can fix it. Start over? No, I shook my head. Some things can't be fixed, Santiago. Trust is one of them. I will never be able to trust you again. And without trust, a relationship is impossible. I'll earn your trust again, he insisted. Give me a chance. For the sake of the 5 years we spent together. For everything we had. I emphasized the word. Now there's nothing. You destroyed it yourself. I headed for the door, but he blocked my path. Don't leave like this. Please. I can't live without you. But you can with Esperanza, I said coldly. You managed for 6 months. I'm sure you'll cope going forward. It's over with Esperanza, he said quickly. I told her I can't see her anymore, that I choose you. That stopped me. When did you manage to do that? This morning. After you left, I realized I was about to lose you and understood I couldn't let that happen. You're the most important person in my life, Valentina. You always have been and always will be. And that's why you cheated on me? I gave a bitter smile. Interesting way to show I'm important to you. I got confused, he admitted. With Esperanza it was different. It wasn't love, just passion and infatuation. Her attention, her admiration flattered me. But that's not what I feel for you. With you, my feelings are real, deep and serious. And you think that's supposed to comfort me? I shook my head. That you destroyed our relationship over a fleeting infatuation? That doesn't make it better, Santiago. If anything, it makes it worse. Valentina, I know I'm to blame, he lowered his head. I know I hurt you, and I'm ready to do anything to fix it. Anything. Just tell me what to do. Step aside and let me leave, I said firmly. That's all you can do for me right now. He slowly stepped back, clearing my way to the door. Will you come back? No, I shook my head. Never. With those words I walked out, closing the door firmly behind me. In the hallway I leaned against the wall for a moment, trying to gather my strength. The conversation with Santiago had drained me emotionally, but I was proud of myself. I hadn't snapped, I hadn't screamed, I hadn't burst into tears. I kept my dignity and made it clear that it was over between us. The door opposite opened, and Esperanza stepped out of her apartment. She froze when she saw me, guilt and surprise flickered across her face. Valentina, she said, I'm sorry. Truly. Truly? I gave her a cold look. So sorry that you slept with my fiancé for 6 months? She lowered her eyes. I know what I did was terrible. There's no excuse. But I really do regret hurting you. You're sorry because you got caught, I noted. If I hadn't overheard your conversation, you would have kept lying to me, maybe even after the wedding. No, she shook her head. I'd been telling Santiago for a long time that he had to tell you the truth, that this couldn't go on. But he kept putting it off, saying he'd find the right moment. And that moment never came, I nodded. How convenient for him. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Esperanza said quietly. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know, I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I shrugged. Anyway, it doesn't matter anymore. You can have Santiago, he's free. And so am I. With that, I headed for the elevator, leaving Esperanza standing in the hallway. I didn't care whether she would go to Santiago now, after I'd left. Their relationship no longer concerned me. I had closed that chapter of my life and was ready to move on. When I stepped outside, I saw Carolina waiting for me in the car. She jumped out as soon as she saw me and hurried to help with my bag. How did it go? She asked, taking the heavy load from me. Fine, I sighed. I saw both Santiago and Esperanza. I told them exactly what I think. And now I'm free. I'm proud of you, Carolina hugged me. You're a strong woman, Valentina. You'll get through this. I know, I gave a faint smile. But right now I need time to heal, to think about the future, to decide what to do next. And you'll have that time, my friend assured me. For now, let's go home. I'll make your favorite mint tea, and we'll watch silly comedies till morning, like the old days. Sounds perfect, I nodded gratefully. Thank you for everything, Carolina. Don't mention it, she smiled. That's what friends are for. We got in the car and drove away from the building I had considered mine just yesterday. I didn't look back. The past stayed there, and I was looking toward the future, unclear, uncertain, but mine. A week later, I found a small apartment I could rent while I looked for something more permanent. Carolina helped me move, and I was endlessly grateful for her support during those hard days. Santiago kept calling and texting, begging for a meeting, for a talk, for a second chance. I didn't answer. What was there to say? I'd made my decision, and it was final. Our paths had diverged, and there was no going back. I told my parents the truth, not all the details, of course, but enough for them to understand that Santiago and I had broken up and there would be no wedding. My mother cried, my father frowned and said he'd always felt something was off about that guy. I knew that wasn't true. They both loved Santiago and had thought him the perfect son-in-law, but I appreciated their attempt to support me. Work became my salvation. I buried myself in projects, took on extra jobs, worked late. It helped me not to think, not to feel, not to remember. In the evenings, when it was especially hard, I called Florencia or met with Carolina. Their support was invaluable in those days. Gradually, the sharp pain began to fade. I still woke up at night thinking about Santiago, our canceled wedding, the betrayal. But those thoughts didn't cut as deeply as before. It was more like sadness and disappointment. I was beginning to accept what had happened, to learn to live with the experience, however bitter it was. One day, about a month after our breakup, I received a letter from Santiago, not an email, but a real, paper letter delivered by courier. I stared at the envelope for a long time, hesitant to open it. What could he write that he hadn't already said in calls and messages? At last, curiosity won. I opened the envelope and took out several pages written in his familiar handwriting. Dear Valentina, Santiago wrote, I know you don't want to see me or hear me, and I respect your decision. But there are things I need to say, and perhaps it will be easier for you to read them on paper. First of all, I want to tell you that I love you, always have and always will. What happened between Esperanza and me has nothing to do with my feelings for you. It was a mistake, stupidity, a moment of weakness that went on far too long. I'm not looking for excuses. I know I betrayed you, destroyed our love and our life, and there are no words that can express how deeply I regret it. I don't know if you will ever be able to forgive me. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know this. I will wait as long as it takes, a year, 2, 10 years. I will wait for the day when you can look at me without pain and disappointment, when maybe we can at least talk. Until then, I want you to be happy, even if that happiness is without me. You deserve the very best, Valentina. You always have. With love, Santiago. I read the letter several times, trying to understand what I felt. Anger, pain, disappointment, all of that was there, but not as sharp as before. More than anything, I felt tiredness and sadness that things might have been different if he hadn't made the choices he did. I folded the pages carefully, put them back in the envelope, and tucked it into a desk drawer. I didn't throw it away, as I might have a week earlier, but I didn't reply either. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. Life went on. I worked, saw friends, and gradually regained my emotional balance. I found a new apartment, brighter and more spacious than the temporary place, and began to make it my own, putting a piece of my soul into every detail, just as I once had with the home Santiago and I shared. Carolina introduced me to a therapist who specializes in helping people recover from betrayal by loved ones. At first I resisted the idea of therapy, but then I decided to try, and I didn't regret it. Our sessions helped me understand and accept my feelings, make sense of the situation, and find the strength to move forward. Betrayal isn't the end, my therapist said, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. It hurts, it's destructive, but it doesn't define your worth as a person or as a woman. You're stronger than you think, Valentina, and you deserve happiness. I tried to believe her, though sometimes it was hard, especially when I saw happy couples on the streets, and cafes, and parks. When I ran into acquaintances who were supposed to be guests at our wedding and saw pity or curiosity in their eyes. When I woke in the middle of the night in an empty bed and reached for the place where Santiago used to sleep. But gradually, day by day, it got easier. I learned to live alone, to enjoy my independence, to value the freedom to choose. I started doing yoga, signed up for a photography course I'd long dreamed of but kept putting off for lack of time. I discovered new places in the city, new people, new interests. 3 months after our breakup, I ran into Santiago by chance at a cafe where I was having lunch with a client. He was sitting at a table in the back, alone, with a cup of coffee and a laptop. Noticing me, he froze, unsure how to react. I nodded to him politely, no smile, but no hostility either. He did the same. That silent exchange of greetings was our first contact all this time. After meeting with my client, I headed for the exit, passing by Santiago's table. He looked up, our eyes met. "Hi," he said quietly. "Hi," I replied, stopping. "You look good." There was genuine warmth in his voice. "Thank you," I nodded. "You too." An awkward pause. What do you say to someone who used to be the center of your universe and is now almost a stranger? "How are you?" he asked at last. "Fine," I shrugged. "Working a lot." "And you?" "Also fine," he hesitated. "I opened a new store in the mall in the Southwest." "Congratulations," I gave a faint smile. "That's good." Another pause. We looked at each other, not knowing what else to say. So much had happened between us, so much remained unsaid, but here, in this cafe, among strangers, there was no room for deep conversations. I have to go, I said. It was nice to see you. You too, he nodded. Maybe we could grab a coffee sometime. Just talk? I hesitated. Was I ready for that? Could I sit across from him and make small talk as if he hadn't shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces? Maybe, I answered evasively. But not now. I still need time. I understand, he accepted my answer with dignity. I'll wait. I nodded and headed for the exit, feeling his gaze on my back. Strangely, after that encounter I felt lighter, as if something that had weighed on my heart for months had eased a little. Maybe because I saw genuine remorse in his eyes? Maybe because I was able to speak to him calmly, without tears or reproaches. Or maybe simply because time really does heal. That evening I received a message from Santiago. Thank you for today's conversation. It was good to see you. I truly will wait until you're ready to talk. No pressure, no expectations. Just a conversation between two people who were once close. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete the message either, as I used to. I kept it, thinking that maybe one day, when the pain had finally faded, I really could sit down with him over a cup of coffee and talk, as friends, or simply as two people who once loved each other. Life went on. I worked, met up with friends, traveled, and started accepting invitations to go on dates, though nothing serious came of them yet. The memories of Santiago's betrayal were still too fresh for me to fully open up to someone new. One day, almost 6 months after our breakup, I received a strange message from an unknown number. Valentina, this is Esperanza. We need to talk. It's important. I stared at the message for a long time, unsure how to respond. Why would Esperanza want to talk to me? What could she possibly have to say? And how did she get my number? After some hesitation, I replied, What do you want to talk about? The answer came almost immediately, not over the phone. Can we meet at the Café Lavanda on Central Street? Today at 6 p.m. I thought it over. Part of me wanted to refuse. Why meet the woman who had destroyed my relationship? What good could come of it? But another part was curious. What was so important that Esperanza wanted to tell me? And why now, 6 months later? All right, I finally replied. I'll be there at 6. All day I couldn't concentrate on work, thinking about the upcoming meeting. What would Esperanza say? What would I reply? Would we be able to talk calmly, without accusations and reproaches? At 6 o'clock I arrived at Lavanda, a small, cozy place in the city center. Esperanza was already there, sitting at a table by the window. When she saw me, she waved to get my attention. I walked over and sat opposite her, studying her face closely. She looked paler than I remembered and seemed to have lost weight. There were shadows under her eyes and new lines at the corners of her mouth. Thank you for coming, she said. I wasn't sure you'd agree to meet with me. Neither was I answered honestly. But I was curious what important thing you wanted to tell me. Esperanza took a deep breath, as if gathering strength. Valentina, I want to apologize to you. A real apology, not just a passing sorry like in the hallway back then. I stayed silent, waiting. What I did is unforgivable, she went on. I knew Santiago was engaged, I knew you were planning a wedding. But I still let it happen. I let myself fall in love with him. I let him be with me. Why? I asked. Why did you do it? I don't know, she shook her head. Maybe because I was lonely. Maybe because Santiago was so attentive, so understanding. He listened to me, took care of me like no one else. He was like that with everyone, I said quietly. It's in his nature, attentive, caring, understanding. That's what I fell in love with. I know, Esperanza lowered her eyes, ashamed. And now I realize I mistook that care for something more than it really was. What do you mean? Santiago didn't love me, she said simply. Not the way he loved you. For him, our relationship was an infatuation, maybe a way to boost his ego, but not love. I felt something tighten inside. For some reason, hearing it from Esperanza hurt more than hearing it from Santiago himself. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Now, 6 months later? Because I had to tell you the truth, she replied. Because I saw how Santiago is suffering without you, how he tries to move on but can't, how he still loves you despite everything. And that's supposed to comfort me? I smiled bitterly. That the man who betrayed me is suffering? No, of course not, Esperanza shook her head. I don't expect you to forgive him or me. I just thought you should know, he really does love you, Valentina, he always has. What happened between us was a mistake, his and mine. I was silent, unsure what to say. Part of me wanted to believe her, to believe that Santiago truly loved me, that our 5 years together hadn't been a lie. But another part was afraid to trust again, to open up again, to be hurt again. There's something else. Esperanza intertwined her fingers nervously. I'm leaving the city. The country. I got a job offer in Europe and decided to take it. It's better for everyone. When? I asked. In a week, she replied. I've already bought the tickets, packed my things. All that's left is to say goodbye to friends and apologize to you. I nodded, not knowing what to say. Should I wish her luck? Say I accept her apology? Or just get up and leave, letting everything remain unspoken? I don't expect you to forgive me, Esperanza said quietly, as if reading my thoughts. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know I truly regret hurting you. Thank you for your honesty, I said at last. And good luck in Europe. Thank you, she gave a faint smile. You're much stronger than I thought, Valentina. And you deserve happiness, real happiness. I nodded, not trusting my voice. We finished our coffee in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Then Esperanza paid for both of us, despite my protests, and we left the cafe. Goodbye, Valentina, she said, extending her hand. And again, I'm sorry. For everything. I shook her hand, feeling a strange sense of relief, as if something that had kept me tied to the past had finally let go. Goodbye, Esperanza. We walked off in different directions. I wandered through the evening city, thinking about our conversation, about Santiago, about what Esperanza had said. He loved me. He had always loved me. But love hadn't been enough to keep him from betraying me. Could I forgive him? Could I trust him again? Could we ever get back to what we had before everything fell apart? I didn't know the answers to those questions. But for the first time in a long while, I felt ready at least to ask them, to consider the possibility, not forgiveness, no, but perhaps understanding. Acceptance of what happened as part of my life rather than a trauma that would define my future. When I got home, I sat by the window for a long time, looking out at the night city. Then I took out my phone and wrote Santiago a message. Hi. I met with Esperanza today. She said she's leaving the country. The reply came almost instantly. Yes, I know. She told me about it a week ago. She also said that you love me. That you always have. A pause. It's true. I never stopped loving you, Valentina, even when I was betraying you. Especially then. I don't understand how you can betray someone you love. Neither do I, he answered honestly. I've thought about it for a long time, asked myself how I could do that to you. And the only answer I've found is this. I was weak, vain, selfish. I let my weaknesses overpower my love. I stayed silent, not knowing what to say. I'm not asking you to come back, he went on. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Just, maybe we could talk? In person, not by message. I thought it over. Was I ready for that conversation? To sit across from Santiago, look him in the eyes, listen to his explanations? All right, I finally replied. Let's meet. We arranged to meet the next day in the park where we used to like to walk together. Neutral ground, an open space where neither of us would feel trapped. I spent the night almost sleepless, thinking about the meeting ahead. What would I say to Santiago? What did I want to hear from him? What was I expecting from this conversation? In the morning I spent a long time choosing what to wear. I didn't want to look as if I had dressed up for the occasion, but I also didn't want to look unkempt. In the end I settled on simple jeans, a white blouse, and a light jacket. I tied my hair back and put on minimal makeup, simple but neat. The park was nearly empty when I arrived. A weekday, mid-morning, most people were at work. I sat on a bench by the pond, our favorite spot, and waited. Santiago appeared right on time. When he saw me, he froze for a moment, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. Then he walked over slowly and sat beside me, keeping enough distance so I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Hi, he said quietly. Hi, I replied, looking at the water. We were silent for a few minutes, unsure where to begin. There was so much to say, but the words wouldn't come. I missed you, he said at last. Every day, every minute. I turned to him. Then why? Why did you do it? Why did you betray me, our love, our plans? He was quiet for a long time, gathering his thoughts. I've thought about it a lot, tried to find an answer that made sense. But the truth is, I was lost. Esperanza appeared at a time when I was doubting myself, my abilities, my future. My business was going through a rough patch. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to provide for you, that I wouldn't live up to your expectations. You never told me that, I noted. Because I was ashamed, he admitted. You were so successful, so confident, and I felt like a failure. And Esperanza, she admired me, saw in me what I couldn't see in myself. It flattered my ego, made me feel significant. And you decided that was worth destroying our relationship? No, he shook his head. I never wanted to destroy us. I kept telling myself it was a temporary fling, that it would pass, that you would never find out. I was selfish and foolish. And the wedding? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. You were going to marry me, knowing you were seeing another woman? I wanted to end things with Esperanza, he said quietly. I tried several times, but each time I went back. It was like a spell. But I never doubted that I loved you, that I wanted to be with you. Love and betrayal are incompatible, Santiago. I shook my head. You can't love someone and at the same time cause them that kind of pain. I know, he lowered his head. And I'm not asking you to understand or forgive me. I just want you to know I truly regret what I did. Every day I wake up with that regret and fall asleep with it. It doesn't let me go for a minute. I looked at him, the man I had once loved more than life, whom I trusted completely, unconditionally, who had shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces. And what did I feel? Anger? Pain? Disappointment? All of that was there, but no longer as sharp as before. More like sadness, sadness for what could have been but never will be. What do you want from me, Santiago? I asked directly. Why did you ask for this meeting? Honestly? He lifted his eyes to mine. I want a second chance. I want to prove to you that I can be the kind of man you deserve, the one who will never betray you, never lie, never hurt you. But you've already proven the opposite, I said softly. I know, he nodded, and I understand I have no right to ask. But I love you, Valentina. I always have and always will. And if there's even the slightest chance that you might someday be able to trust me again, I'll wait as long as it takes. I was silent for a long time, watching the pond, the ducks near the shore, the fallen leaves swirling on the surface. Then I turned to him. I don't know, Santiago. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again. I don't know if I can forget what happened. But I'm willing to try. Not a relationship, no. Just to get to know you again, as a friend, to see if we can restore at least a part of what we had. His face brightened, hope appeared in his eyes. Really? You're truly willing to give me a chance? A small chance, I clarified. And not for a relationship, maybe for a friendship. If you prove you deserve even that. I will, he said with conviction. I swear, Valentina, I'll do everything to earn your trust again. I nodded without promising anything specific. I wasn't sure anything good would come of it, but I felt I had to try, not for Santiago's sake, but for my own, to close this chapter of my life with understanding rather than bitterness and pain. We sat in the park for a long time, talking about everything and nothing, work, friends, plans for the future. We didn't touch the past. We didn't talk about the betrayal. We just talked, like we used to at the beginning, when everything was simple and clear. When it was time to say goodbye, Santiago asked, "May I call you? Maybe we could have coffee next week?" I thought for a moment, then nodded. All right, but let's not rush, okay? I need time. Of course, he nodded seriously. Everything will be as you want it, at your pace. We parted, and I walked home feeling strangely light. I didn't know what the future would bring, whether Santiago and I would manage to restore even a friendship, let alone more. But I knew I had taken the first step toward acceptance and forgiveness, not of him, but of myself, for allowing myself to be hurt, to be vulnerable, to be human. The day after our meeting, I woke with the sense that something had changed. Not in the world around me, but inside me. As if the heavy burden I had carried for the past 6 months had become a little lighter. I still felt the pain of betrayal. I still couldn't fully trust Santiago. But for the first time in a long while, I looked to the future with hope rather than fear and bitterness. At work, I was more focused than usual. Clients noticed a change in my mood. One of them, an elderly professor for whom I was designing a study, even asked what had happened. "You're somehow different today," he said, watching me sketch. Calmer, more self-assured. I smiled, unsure how to explain what I didn't fully understand myself. I probably just slept well. He shook his head, unconvinced, but didn't press. In any case, it becomes you. When a designer is happy, it shows in her work. Was I happy? I don't think I could call it happiness. It was more like acceptance of what had happened, of who I had become because of it, and of the fact that life goes on no matter what. In the evening, when I returned home, I found a small package in my mailbox. No return address, just my name in familiar handwriting. Santiago. I brought the package inside and stared at it for a long time, hesitant to open it. What could he have sent? Why? Finally, curiosity won out. I carefully opened the wrapping and found a small box and a note inside. "Valentina, I found this among my things. I think it should be with you. S. Inside the box lay a silver heart-shaped pendant. I recognized it immediately. It was my grandmother's gift for my 16th birthday. I had thought I'd lost it during the move to the apartment Santiago and I shared. I'd searched for it everywhere, cried over it, but never found it. And all this time, it had been with Santiago. I pressed the pendant to my chest, feeling tears well up, not from grief, no, but from relief, from gratitude. That small gesture, returning a piece of my past, meant more to me than all his words about love and remorse. I put on the pendant and looked at my reflection in the mirror. The silver heart, my grandmother's symbol of love, lay against my skin as if it had always been there. Maybe it was a sign that I was on the right path, that the decision to give Santiago a small chance, not at love, but at understanding, was the right one. A week later Santiago called, just as he had promised. He asked how I was, told me a little about his work, about a new project he'd started. The conversation was easy and unforced, like between old friends rather than former lovers with a complicated history behind them. "Thank you for the pendant," I said at the end of the call. "It means a great deal to me." "I know," he replied. "I remember how you looked for it, how you cried when you couldn't find it. I came across it by accident in a box of old things. I don't know how it got there. What matters is that it was found," I said with a smile, though he couldn't see it. "Thank you for returning it." "Valentina," his voice grew serious. "Are you still thinking about our conversation? About the possibility of starting over?" "I am. But I'm not ready for anything more than phone calls yet." "I understand," he didn't press. "I just wanted to know if there's any hope for me." "I can't promise you anything specific, Santiago," I said honestly. "Not now. Too much has happened." "I know," his voice held acceptance. "And I'm not asking for promises. Just a chance to show you that I've changed, that I can be better." We said goodbye, agreeing to speak again in a few days. I hung up feeling a strange calm. Not happiness, no, but neither pain nor anger nor disappointment. Just calm, acceptance, perhaps even hope. Life went on as usual. I worked, met up with friends, and kept going to therapy. My therapist noticed changes in me. "You seem more balanced," she said during our next session. "Calmer. Did something happen?" I told her about my meeting with Santiago, our conversation, his call, the pendant. She listened attentively without interrupting, only nodding now and then. "And how do you feel about him now?" she asked when I finished. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me is still angry with him, still can't forgive the betrayal. But another part misses him, who he was before all this, our conversations, our closeness, our friendship." "Are you thinking about the possibility of restoring the relationship?" "Not romantically," I shook my head. "At least not yet. I can't imagine being with him like that again. But maybe we could be friends. Someday." "That's good," she smiled. "The fact that you're not closing yourself off to reconciliation, to forgiveness, shows that you're healing." "Really?" I was surprised. I thought I needed to be stronger, to cut him off completely and reject everything connected to him. "Strength isn't about rejecting the past, Valentina," the therapist said gently. "Strength is about accepting it, understanding it, learning from it, and moving forward. Sometimes moving forward means leaving someone behind, and sometimes it means giving them a second chance, not to the old relationship, no, but to a new one based on who you both have become after everything that happened." Her words made me think. Maybe I really was ready for a new stage, not a return to the past, but the creation of something new, something that took into account the experience we had both gone through. Santiago and I continued talking on the phone once a week, sometimes more. Our conversations grew more open, deeper. We discussed not only everyday matters but also our feelings, thoughts, fears, and hopes. One day, about 2 months after our meeting in the park, Santiago suggested we meet again. "Just to have dinner together," he said. "As friends. Nothing more." I hesitated. Was I ready for that, for seeing him not in passing, like at the cafe, but spending an entire evening together? Could I keep my distance, not letting old feelings take over? "All right," I agreed at last. "But somewhere neutral, neither your place nor mine." "Of course," he sounded pleased. "I know a good restaurant downtown, not too noisy, not too quiet, perfect for talking." We set it for the following Friday. I didn't tell Carolina about the upcoming meeting. I wasn't ready for her questions or for explaining what, exactly, existed between Santiago and me now. I didn't fully understand it myself. On Friday I chose my outfit carefully. I didn't want to look like I was going on a date, but I didn't want to look sloppy either. I settled on a simple black dress, easy to dress up with accessories or keep plain and businesslike. I decided to wear no jewelry except my grandmother's pendant, which I almost never took off now. The restaurant was exactly as Santiago had described, cozy, with subdued lighting, but not overly romantic. He was already waiting at a table by the window and stood when he saw me. "You look wonderful," he said as I sat down. "Thank you," I nodded, trying not to show how his compliment resonated inside me. "You look good too." He smiled, and that smile reminded me of the days when we had just started dating, when everything was simple, clear, and full of hope. I caught myself missing those times and immediately pulled myself up. You can't live in the past, you have to accept the present as it is. Dinner passed easily, effortlessly. We talked about work, about the news, about movies we'd recently seen. We avoided subjects tied to our past, to Esperanza, to the betrayal. It was as if this were our first evening together. In a sense, it was the first evening for the new us, changed and tempered by pain and experience. When dessert arrived, Santiago suddenly grew serious. "Valentina, I have to tell you something." I tensed, bracing for anything, a confession that he was seeing Esperanza again, that he'd lied to me all this time, that our meeting had been a mistake. "I sold my share of the business," he said, surprising me, "and I started a new company, very small for now, consulting for aspiring entrepreneurs." "Why?" I was genuinely surprised. "Your chain of stores was successful. You spent years building it." "Because I wanted a clean slate," he said simply, "in every aspect of my life. And also because there were too many memories tied up in it, of you, of us, of how I ruined everything." I didn't know what to say. The admission was too unexpected, too personal. "I'm not telling you this to pressure you," he added quickly, seeing my confusion. "I just wanted you to know that I really am changing, Valentina, not for you, though you're part of it, of course, but first of all for myself. I don't want to be the man who betrayed the woman he loved, who couldn't stand up to his own weaknesses. I'm happy for you," I said sincerely. "Truly happy. And proud of you." His eyes lit with hope. "Really?" "Yes," I nodded. "Starting over, especially in business, takes courage. I do see that you're changing, Santiago. I see it and I appreciate it." We finished dinner in a quiet, relaxed atmosphere. When it was time to say goodbye, Santiago offered to walk me home. I agreed, though I wasn't sure it was a good idea. We walked through the night city, occasionally exchanging remarks about the weather, the beauty of the lights, the quiet of the streets. Halfway to my building a light rain began, not heavy, more of a drizzle, but enough to get wet. Santiago took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders despite my protests. "You'll get cold," I objected. "I'm warm," he said. I accepted his care, feeling a strange warmth inside, not from the jacket, but from the sense that someone was looking after me, protecting me, taking care of me. I had missed that feeling so much. When we reached my building, I handed his jacket back. "Thank you for the evening," I said. "It was nice." "For me too," he smiled. "Maybe we can do it again sometime." I nodded. "Maybe. But..." "I know," he raised a hand to stop me. "Let's not rush. Everything at your pace." I smiled gratefully. He truly understood. He didn't push, didn't hurry me, respected my boundaries and my feelings. Maybe he really had changed. "Good night, Santiago," I said, turning to go. "Valentina," he called after me. "May I hug you goodbye?" I froze, not knowing what to say. Part of me wanted that embrace. I missed his arms, his warmth. Another part was afraid it might break the boundaries I'd worked so hard to build. "Okay," I said at last. "But just a hug, as friends." "Of course," he nodded seriously. "Only as friends." He hugged me carefully, as if he were afraid to scare me off. I caught the familiar scent of his cologne, the warmth of his body, the strength of his arms. For a moment time seemed to stop, and we were once again those two people who loved each other unconditionally, completely, without a shadow of doubt. But the moment passed, and we stepped away from each other. In his eyes I saw a mix of emotions: hope, tenderness, regret, desire. I was sure my eyes reflected the same. "Good night," he said softly. "Good night," I replied, and quickly went into the building without looking back. As I rode up in the elevator, my heart was pounding in my chest. What am I doing? Am I doing the right thing by letting Santiago back into my life? Is this a mistake? Will it hurt even more later if he betrays me again? But another voice inside me said that I had the right to a second chance, not just Santiago, but me as well. The right to try again, to believe in the possibility of healing, forgiveness, a new beginning. That evening with Santiago changed something between us. Our phone calls became more frequent, more personal. We started seeing each other, first once a week, then more often. We went to the movies, to museums, simply walked around the city, like friends, nothing more. But with each meeting I felt the old feelings I had so carefully buried begin to come back to life. I fought them, refusing to let them take over. The memories of the betrayal were too fresh, the wound he had inflicted too deep. And yet I couldn't deny that Santiago had changed. He'd become more open, more honest, more attentive. He told me about his doubts, his fears, his failures, not only in business but in his personal life. He hid nothing, even if it might show him in a less than flattering light. One day, while we were walking in the park, he suddenly stopped and turned to me. "Valentina, I have to tell you something." I tensed, bracing for anything. "I'm listening." I dated another woman after Esperanza, but before we started talking again, I felt something tighten inside me. Jealousy? Hurt? I don't know. But it definitely wasn't what I expected to feel. It didn't last long, he went on, seeing my reaction. "Just a few dates, nothing serious." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're not together, Santiago. You don't have to report your personal life to me." "I know," he nodded. "But I promised myself I would never hide anything from you again, never lie, not even about small things. And I want you to know, since we started talking again, I haven't seen anyone. I didn't want to, and I don't want to." I didn't know what to say. His honesty touched me, but it also reminded me of what we'd been through, of the reasons why we were just friends and not a couple. "Thank you for being honest," I said at last. "I appreciate it." He nodded, accepting my answer without asking for more. We continued our walk, and gradually the tension melted away, replaced by the familiar ease of our conversations. That evening, back home, I sat by the window for a long time, thinking about Santiago, about us, about what might lie ahead. I still wasn't ready for a romantic relationship with Santiago or anyone. The wound from the betrayal hadn't fully healed. But I couldn't deny that my feelings for him were changing, that anger and resentment were slowly giving way to understanding, acceptance, perhaps even forgiveness. The next day I called my therapist and asked for an extra session. I needed advice, an outside perspective, a professional take on what was happening between me and Santiago. "You're afraid of your feelings," she said after listening to me. "You're afraid to trust him again, to open up again. And that's normal, Valentina. After what you've gone through, it would be strange if you weren't afraid." "But I don't know what to do with that fear," I admitted. "Part of me wants to take the risk, to give us a second chance. Another part is afraid the story will repeat itself and I'll be hurt again." "What does your intuition tell you?" she asked. "Not your reason, not your heart, your inner sense. Do you believe he's changed?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said finally. "I do. I see it in his actions, in his words, and how he treats me and others. He's become better. And not just for me, but for himself." "Then perhaps it's worth trying?" the therapist suggested gently. "Not diving headlong into a relationship, no, but taking a small step toward him and seeing what happens. You can always stop if you feel it's not what you want." Her words made me think. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd been holding on to the past, to the pain and resentment, for too long. Maybe it was time to let it go and move forward. That evening Santiago called as usual. We talked about everyday things, about a movie he'd recently watched, about a book I was reading, an ordinary conversation, like many we'd had in recent months. "Santiago," I said when we were about to hang up, "are you free this Saturday evening?" "Yes," he said, surprised. He was usually the one to suggest meeting up, not me. "Why?" "I'd like to invite you to dinner," I said, my heart racing. "At my place. I'll cook something." The silence on the other end lasted so long that I started to worry the line had dropped. "Santiago, are you there?" "Yes," he said, his voice sounding odd. "It's just, are you sure? You've never invited me over before." "I know," I took a deep breath. "But now I'm ready for this small step." "Valentina," there was such tenderness in his voice that it took my breath away. "I would be very happy to come. Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself," I smiled. "And maybe a bottle of that red wine we had at the restaurant last time. It was good." "Of course," he sounded so happy that I couldn't help smiling. 6 o'clock? 6, I confirmed. "See you then." After hanging up, I felt a strange mix of calm and uncertainty. I still had doubts, still felt afraid, but it was a conscious choice, a step I was taking with my eyes open, aware of all the risks. And that gave me strength. The next few days I spent preparing, cleaning the apartment, even though it was already clean, planning the menu, buying groceries, choosing what to wear. I was as nervous as if it were a first date, even though Santiago and I had known each other for years. On Saturday, I woke up early, even though dinner wasn't until 6. I made the dough for a pie, marinated the meat, went to the market for fresh vegetables. I wanted everything to be perfect. At 5 o'clock I started cooking. I put the pie in the oven, chopped vegetables for a salad, made the sauce. By 5:30 everything was ready, and I went to get changed. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time, critically evaluating my appearance, not too dressy, not too plain. In the end I chose a blue dress that Santiago had once called his favorite. I left my hair down and did light makeup. Around my neck, I fastened my grandmother's pendant, which had become a kind of talisman for me. Right at 6 the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, gathered myself, and went to open the door. Santiago stood on the threshold with a bouquet of lilies, my favorite flowers, and a bottle of the very wine I'd requested. "Hi," he said, handing me the flowers. "You look stunning." "Thank you," I smiled, taking the bouquet. "Come in." He stepped inside, looking around with open curiosity. He'd never been in my new apartment before, he'd only seen it in the photos I'd shown him. "It's very cozy," he said, following me into the kitchen. "And it smells amazing. I hope you like it." I put the flowers in a vase. "I made your favorite, roast lamb with rosemary. You remember?" Surprise and gratitude flickered in his eyes. "Of course," I shrugged. "We were together for 5 years. I remember all your favorite dishes, movies, books." We sat at the table, and I poured the wine. At first the conversation didn't flow. We were both nervous, unsure what to say or how to act. But gradually, with each sip of wine and each passing minute, the tension ebbed away. We started talking more freely, laughing, remembering funny moments from our past, not the ones tied to betrayal, but the ones filled with joy, love, and closeness. After dinner we moved to the living room. Santiago sat on the sofa, and I settled into an armchair opposite, a safe distance I was deliberately keeping between us. "Valentina," he suddenly grew serious. "I have to ask, what is this? This evening, this dinner. What does it mean for us?" I thought for a moment, choosing my words. "I don't know, Santiago. Honestly, I just wanted to take this step, to invite you into my home, into my space, and see how it would feel." "And how does it feel?" His gaze was attentive, serious. "How do you feel right now?" "Good," I smiled. "Calm, comfortable, not as scary as I thought." "I'm glad," he smiled too, "because I feel the same. And I hope this won't be the last evening like this." "It won't," I agreed. "But let's not rush, okay? Let's just see where this takes us." "Of course," he nodded gravely. "I'm in no hurry, Valentina. I'm just happy to be near you in any capacity." We talked late into the night, about work, friends, plans for the future, our fears, hopes, and dreams. When it was time to say goodbye, Santiago didn't linger, didn't try to stay the night, didn't hint at anything beyond conversation. He respected my boundaries, my pace, my right to decide how and when to move forward. At the door he hugged me gently, like he had outside my building. But this time I didn't pull away immediately. I let myself lean into him for a moment, breathe in his scent, feel his warmth. It was strange, familiar and yet new, as if I were embracing both the man from my past and someone entirely new. "Thank you for the evening," he said, letting me go. "It was special." "Yes," I nodded. "For me too." After he left, I sat in the quiet of the apartment for a long time, thinking about what had happened, about how easy it felt with him, how natural, as if the past year hadn't existed, as if there had been no betrayal, no pain, no separation, just the two of us enjoying each other's company. But I knew that was an illusion. All those things had happened, they had changed us both and changed our relationship. We could never go back to what we were. But maybe we could create something new, something based not on blind faith but on a conscious choice, not on naivety, but on accepting that we are all imperfect, that we all make mistakes, that we all deserve a second chance. I didn't know the answers to those questions, but for the first time in a long while, I looked to the future not with fear, but with hope, with the belief that whatever came next, I would manage, because I had already been through the worst and survived, becoming stronger, wiser, more whole. Over the next few weeks, Santiago and I saw each other more often than before. He came over for dinner, I sometimes visited him. We went to the movies, to the theater, to the park. We talked about everything under the sun, laughed, sometimes argued, but always respectfully, without anger or resentment. Gradually our relationship changed, not abruptly or dramatically, but slowly, almost imperceptibly. Farewell hugs grew longer, looks deeper, conversations more intimate. We started holding hands on walks, sitting closer together at the movies, exchanging light, almost innocent kisses when we met and when we parted. I was still afraid he would betray me again, that the story would repeat itself, that I would be left with a broken heart once more. But with each day, each meeting, each conversation, that fear grew smaller, giving way to trust, not the blind, naive trust of before, but a conscious trust grounded in observation, in experience, and knowledge. One evening, after dinner at my place, we were sitting on the couch watching some movie. I leaned against Santiago's shoulder, and he had his arm around me, a cozy, homely scene, as if from our past, yet completely new at the same time. "Valentina," he said suddenly, switching off the TV. "I need to tell you something." I sat up straight, looking at him anxiously. Those words rarely prefaced anything good. "I'm listening," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I love you," he said simply. "I always have and always will. And I want to be with you, truly be with you, not as a friend or a companion for dinners and walks, but as your partner, the person you love, your husband someday, if you're ready." I was silent, not knowing what to say. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately, to throw my arms around his neck and forget everything but our love. Another part still hesitated, still felt afraid. "I know I'm asking a lot," he went on, seeing my confusion. "I know I don't deserve your trust or your love. But I promise you, Valentina, I swear by everything sacred to me, I will never betray you again, never hurt you. I will love you, care for you, protect you until my last breath." I looked into his eyes, searching for even a shadow of insincerity, a hint of a lie. But I saw only love, devotion, hope. "I'm not asking for an answer now," he said, squeezing my hands. "I understand you need time to think. I'll wait as long as it takes." I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "Santiago, I love you too. I never stopped, even when I hated you for what you did. But I'm afraid to open up completely again, to trust without reservation. Afraid that one day I'll wake up and realize all of this was a mistake." "I understand," he nodded. "I know I destroyed your trust, and it will take a long time to rebuild. But I'm willing to wait, Valentina, willing to prove every day, every minute, that you can trust me." I looked at him, the man I loved, had lost, and might have found again. And suddenly I realized I was not afraid of his betrayal so much as of my own inability to forgive, to let go of the past, to start over. "I want to be with you," I said quietly. "I want to try. But I need time, Santiago, not to decide whether I love you, that I know for sure. I need time to learn to trust again, not only you, but myself, my choices, my feelings, my ability to be happy. I'll be here," he said, gently embracing me, "for as long as it takes. And if one day you realize you can't be with me, that the wound is too deep, I'll understand. I'll let you go if that's what makes you happy." I pressed against him, feeling tears stream down my cheeks, not from grief, but from relief, from realizing that I was finally letting go of the past, forgiving him and myself, giving us a second chance. We sat like that for a long time, holding each other without speaking, simply feeling each other's warmth, the beating of our hearts, our shared breath, as if our souls, separated by pain and betrayal, had found each other again and become one. At last I drew back and looked into his eyes. "Stay tonight," I said softly. "Just be with me." He nodded, understanding that I meant not passion or physical closeness, but simply presence, the chance to fall asleep side by side, wake up together, and start a new day as a couple, as two people who had decided to be together despite everything. That night we slept in the same bed, simply holding hands. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't wake from nightmares, didn't feel lonely, didn't reach for the empty space beside me, because it was no longer empty. Santiago was there, my Santiago, the man I loved and had decided to give a second chance. In the morning I woke before he did. For a while I just lay there watching him sleep, the peaceful expression on his face, the faint smile on his lips, his even breathing. I gently touched his cheek, feeling the light roughness of stubble under my fingers. He stirred but didn't wake, only turned toward me, as if in his sleep he was seeking my warmth, my closeness. In that moment I knew I had made the right decision. Not an easy one, yes, there was risk, and there always would be, but life without risk isn't life, it's a safe but empty existence. And I wanted to live a full, real life, with all its highs and lows, its joys and sorrows, its love and, yes, even its pain. Santiago opened his eyes and saw me, and he smiled that special smile that was always only for me. "Good morning," he said softly. "Good morning," I replied, smiling back. And it truly was a good morning, the beginning of a new day, a new life, a new us. Not like before. We had both changed, grown, become stronger. And perhaps that was exactly why we had a chance at real happiness, not naive, blind happiness, but a conscious, hard one, well-earned one. We had breakfast together, made coffee, and talked about our plans for the day, as if we'd been doing it every morning for years. And in a way, we had. We'd returned to something familiar while creating something entirely new. Before leaving for work, Santiago hugged me and said softly, "Thank you." "For what?" I asked, surprised. "For the second chance," he replied. "For believing in me, in us. For being so strong, so wise, so you." I smiled, feeling my heart fill with warmth. "Thank you for not giving up, not backing down, not letting our story end with that conversation I accidentally overheard." He kissed me gently, and that kiss held everything: love, promises, hope, the future, our future, which we would build together, day by day, step by step. After Santiago left, I stood by the window for a long time, watching him walk to his car. A strange sense of déjà vu washed over me. Almost a year ago, I'd stood at a window like this, but then my heart was broken, my future unclear, my hopes in ruins. Now everything was different. I felt calm, confident, joyful. Life is truly unpredictable. In a single moment it can destroy everything you hold dear, inflict pain that feels unbearable. But it can also give a second chance, a chance to correct mistakes, heal wounds, begin again. I didn't know what lay ahead for Santiago and me. Perhaps we really could build a happy life together. Perhaps not. But I was grateful to fate for this lesson, this experience, this opportunity, for pressing the wrong floor by accident, deciding to take the stairs, and overhearing the conversation that changed my life forever. Because without that pain, without that disappointment, without that journey from darkness to light, I would never have become the person I am now, strong, independent, capable of forgiving and, most importantly, of loving, not blindly or naively, but with my eyes open, accepting the good and the bad and everything in between. And that, perhaps, is the most important lesson I took from this whole story. True love is not a fairy tale, not a perfect picture, not eternal happiness without problems or hardships. True love is a choice we make every day, the choice to stay, to support, to forgive, to accept, the choice to see not only another person's mistakes and weaknesses, but also their strength, their desire to become better, their love. And I made my choice, the choice to love Santiago despite his past mistakes, to believe that people can change, grow, and learn from their errors, to give us both a second chance at happiness. Because, in the end, isn't that the essence of life? The ability to fall and rise again, to lose and to find, to err and to make things right. The ability to love, no matter what. I smiled at my thoughts and stepped away from the window. A new day awaited me, a new life. And I was ready for it, with all its surprises, its joys and sorrows, its unpredictability and beauty. Because now I knew that whatever happened, I would cope, because I am stronger than I thought, wiser than I imagined, more whole than ever. And that knowledge was the most precious gift given to me by that accidentally overheard conversation on the stair landing.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.